Hi, my name's Vince and welcome to episode 7 of the YouTube Fixers. So in this episode today we have a Project Scorpio which is not displaying on the TV. A PlayStation Fat which has the yellow light of death. We also have a Retrobrite experiment. And lastly, the soldering up of a broken USB 3 port on a hard drive caddy. And first up we have Chase from the YouTube channel Chase Fournier, and in this one here he's working on a Project Scorpio, so the day 1 edition of the Xbox One X. With this one here it's not displaying onto a TV. So he takes the board out and he's working on the redriver chip or the retimer chip. This is the chip that sorts out the signals for the HDMI ports, so for example the resolutions etc. on your TV. Now on this one, I know because I've done it in the past, this is not an easy chip to change over. So here we have Chase.
Thanks Vince. In this video we're going to be taking a look at an Xbox One X that came in for no video. What we're going to do is we're going to test it out on the screen, we're going to see what it does, then I'll open it up, I'll put you guys on the microscope, and then we're going to look at the board and we're going to diagnose the problem and fix it. Alright, let's power it up. Alright, that is a good sign. This is really cool. It's a Project Scorpio edition. Alright. And just as I suspected, no video. So I'm going to tear this thing down, get down to the board, and we'll have a look at it and see if we can fix it. Alright, now that I have the board out, let's go into the microscope and have a look. So here we are. Right away I can tell you that this chip has been attempted to be replaced before. Someone has attempted to replace this and did not do a good job either. So what we're going to do is I am going to remove this chip. I'm going to put some flux around it. Now this flux that I'm using is an Amtech 559 version 2 flux. Now I'm going to grab my hot air station, I'm going to set it to 450 degrees Celsius. Alright, so what we're looking for is we're looking for this solder to just start flowing. Once we see the solder flow, then we can go ahead and pull the chip up. As you can see down here on the bottom, the solder is already beginning to flow, which is great. Almost there. And there it is. Okay. Now the key to this is while the board is hot, add some flux here and start flowing some leaded solder on these pins here. So I'm going to take some solder, I'm going to spread it to all of these pads here. Alright. This big ground plane has got to be sopped up a little bit. Alright. Now these pads don't need to look perfect at all. They don't even have to have much solder on them. Realistically, we just need to clean this up. We're going to put our chip on, and then we'll go ahead and just flow it right into place. Alright, so I'm going to take some isopropyl alcohol in a little bottle that has a syringe on it, and I'm going to go ahead and clean up this flux here with a Q-tip. We don't need to clean it up too much right now, we just need to get it cleaned up enough to add some new flux, and then we're going to just put that chip on there, and it should be good to go. So now add flux to it. Alright, so I'm going to grab the hot air. We're going to melt this little blob down right here in the center, and then we'll put the chip on. There it is. We need to put the chip in the center. There it is. You see how the chip kind of centered itself? That is what is called surface tension. Alright, we're going to put some flux around here. I'm going to grab my conical angled tip. We are going to flow these joints. Now, I'm telling you guys, if you're going to do this repair yourself, you must do this while the board is still hot after you put the chip on, okay? I promise. Because you don't, these joints right here at the top are not going to flow real nice. Alright, let's zoom in here. There we go. These ones here. These ones here. Alright. These last ones. Just like that. Alright. So let's zoom out here. And I am going to go ahead and clean this up with some isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip again. Alright. Add some more alcohol here. I'll tell you what, if you're going to do this kind of work, you must have good flux. Promise you. Alright. Now we're going to take a look at our joints here. Clean it up a little bit more here. Alright. So our joints look good there. Good there. Good there. And good up there. Alright. Let's get this board back together enough to test and see how we're doing. Now, before we put this thing all the way back together, one thing I teach on my channel is that you should never put something all the way back together before you test it. And the reason is because if it doesn't work, then you have to tear it all the way back down apart again. So things like the disk drive, we're not going to need that to show an image on the screen. That's all we just need the hard drive, the power supply, and a fan and a heatsink. That is it. Oh, and a power board. Don't forget the power board because we got to turn it on, right? Alright, so let's go ahead and power it on. And move you guys up to the screen here. Let's see. Do we have video? Did we fix the problem? Oh, that is a good sign. Wait. Haha, there it is. It's working. Yes. Alright. So, of course, you guys see this E106 error. That has something to do with the software on the hard drive. Could be a bad hard drive, could be a few other things. As you can see from the repair, someone else attempted this repair already, and not soldering in the chip correctly is not going to fix the Xbox. You must solder it in the right way, otherwise it will not work. So when it comes to micro soldering, having good tools, like a good microscope, a good hot air station, a good soldering iron, a good multimeter even, will get you successful results. Well, that will be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and now back to you, Vince.
Thanks for that, Chase. You did an amazing job there. Again, you make it look easy. And when I did it, it took me ages because the board on the Xbox One X is quite thick and it drains away all that heat very, very well. So you have to heat it up for an eternity. So yeah, job well done. And next up, we have another games console, but this time we're going back a generation. So we've got Guido from the Italian Retro guy, and he's working on a PlayStation 3 Fat. But this is the one that plays PlayStation 2 games as well. So you've got PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3, so it's a very desirable console. But unfortunately this one has the yellow light of death, so it doesn't even turn on. So Guido's going to be changing out the NEC token capacitors. Now these are a bit of a pain to remove, but apparently they're a big failure point on these systems and other systems as well, laptops, etc. So by changing them out to newer capacitors, tantalum ones, you can often revive a PlayStation 3. So here we have Guido.
Grazie mille, Vince. So today I've got a yellow LED of death PS3. And I'm gonna see if I can do it a bit smarter than usual. What I meant by smarter than usual was that I would try to attach debug wires to the board, but what I didn't remember is that I previously fried my UART adapter, and therefore I ended up doing it dumb anyway. What I've actually got here is a backwards compatible PS3 Fat model, which is especially dear to me because it can run PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 games natively, and that means that it's got 100% compatibility with every title. A common way to attempt to fix this issue is to replace at least all of the top side neck token capacitors on the motherboard, each one with 4 470 microfarad capacitors on a fat model and 4 330 microfarad capacitors on a slim model. So you may notice this is missing a lot of screws as well as the Blu-ray drive, and that's because I took it out a couple of weeks ago because I already know it's not working. So yeah. So these two buttons here, they like to catch on everything because they're like metal springs. So I recommend removing this board even though you don't need to, and storing it somewhere safer. And now I'll be taking the motherboard out, which is boring, so have some music. So now I'll be using the Hot Air Station, and I will be removing anything from the board that doesn't need to be destroyed, such as thermal pads. I'm gonna turn on my smoke absorber, and I'm gonna start preheating the board a little bit. And I'm also going to start applying some flux so that it makes its way under the capacitors. There's actually probably too much flux. Oh yeah, that's way too much. Okay, here we go, we're almost there. Just be able to like completely total this from the board. So I wanted to try the scraper for this video, but it's really not helping at all. On a slim model, it is much more likely to fix the Y-Load, but on a fat model, it is still a cheap fix attempt, especially if you can get the capacitors for cheap and if done properly. Sometimes you will have to replace all the capacitors on the board, but if you leave at least one in each group, and each group is made of 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, you will not need to run a jumper wire. Since you may end up replacing more capacitors than you think, it's best to also buy more capacitors than you think you need. So the first one, if you haven't done it for a while or you have never done it at all, is going to take a long time to remove. But after that, it's like learning to ride a bike. I'm going to grab the replacement capacitors. I should need 470 microfarad capacitors for this. So now that is one side down. Now that's the other side down as well. I'm gonna grab another one. I'm gonna do the same thing again. When soldering down these capacitors, it's very important to get the spacing right because you need to solder down all of them. Because the leads of these capacitors are L-shaped and they start from the side of the capacitor and go all the way to the bottom, it's enough to apply solder on the side of the capacitor and it should make its way underneath and make contact with the pads on the board. Of course, pre-tinning the pads is going to make it easier for the solder to make contact. So I've got red light, and it's not turning off. I think this is fixed. The perfect amount of thermal paste. Right, I hooked up an old TV monitor and we're gonna see if it worked out. So yeah, that looks like it worked. Torniamo a te, Vince.
Grazie Guido, bella soluzione. Hope I got that right. It's been a long time since I've learnt any Italian. So well done, another PlayStation 3 saved from the fate of a flashing light of death. And next up we have Dorian from HooverLux Restorations. Now Dorian likes his vacuum cleaners, also his washing machines as well. He has lots and lots of them. And in this video today, he's going to be doing a Retrobriting experiment. So he's going to be trying to restore the plastics which have gone yellowed over the years to bring them back to their former glory. Now with this one, he's already had a go at this and the results were not very good. It came out streaky. So he's going to do a different method to see if the results are any better. Now obviously with Retrobriting, if you're using UV lights, you've got to protect your eyes and also your skin as well, because it can cause damage, especially to the eyes. So with this one now, check out Dorian's welcome. In my opinion, it's the best welcome in the whole of YouTube. So here we have Dorian.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction there, Vince. Welcome, bienvenido, croeso y salam. Welcome to the channel, y'all. Cześć, jak się masz, ni hao, and good day, y'all. So today we are going to be talking about retrobriting and a method that I have recently discovered and tried for myself. Retrobriting is a kind of way to lighten up plastics that are either faded, gone darker, gone lighter, gone streaky. It is a bit of a minefield. There are many different methods on doing retrobriting, but I'm going to be concentrating on one that I've recently just started. I've done a little kind of experiment, but today I'm actually going to be doing a full-blown item of this here, which is a Hoover brush vac, on retrobriting it to bring back a problem that I did with the last time I tried to retrobrite it. That method was using this cream peroxide. So you'd cover the item in the cream peroxide, cover in cling film. I would normally then use a hairdryer on medium setting just to get the heat process going and then leaving it out in the sunshine. But if anybody's watching from the UK, you know that the sun is not guaranteed to come out at all, and it can be a bit of a nightmare waiting for a sunny day. Sometimes I can only do retrobriting a few days a year. So I'm going to get you a bit closer and we're going to have a look at what we're going to be doing today. So the machine that we're going to be working on today is this late 1990s Hoover brush vac, and it's in a kind of like beigey colour. But over time it had faded and it had gone very brown. So I used my method of the cream peroxide with cling film in direct sunlight. And unfortunately, because the plastic was not white, it caused this really bad marbling effect of where the cling film and the cream was touching. Now the machine works absolutely fine. So it's not so much a fix of the machine, but we are going to be trying to fix the look of it. So the first thing I have to do is to strip this back down to its plastic components, and we will do that in time lapse. I have stripped it down to its component parts. So here we have the 3 parts of the machine that I'm going to be retrobriting today. I have a plastic container and I've put down a cloth, because what we're going to be using is this, which is hydrogen peroxide 12% food grade liquid. That stuff will burn your hands, so you have to make sure that you wear gloves. So I need to first of all get some kitchen foil, shiny side, over the bottom, like so. Now that is going to reflect the UV light around it. You don't want to put the metal inside if you're filling it up with this. You're better off putting it on the outside, as long as it's just something to reflect the light. Next thing I need to do is to put these into here, and we need to weigh them down to stop them from floating. So I have some of these like plastic weights that I will put inside to weigh them down. Basically, you take the hydrogen peroxide, 12% food grade, pour it into the container slowly, not to splash everywhere, until they are completely covered. So that is everything completely submerged under the solution. I used a little wooden stick just to poke everything around to make sure that it would sink, and now everything is under that surface. Next thing we have to do is to cover it. I have this great big piece of Perspex. Then you need the magic ingredient, which are these. These are UV floodlights. Each one of these, I thought these were 50 watt, but they're actually 30 watt. I have 2 30 watt of these, which will be placed on top like so. As with always when it comes to doing something like this, safety is a priority. Do not leave it unattended. So everything is inside. I've got cling film to cover up any of the gaps. We put the spotlights on top. Now I switch it on. The UV lights are now directed into the water, which will cause a reaction with the peroxide and the plastic, and hopefully we will be able to rectify the problem. It's now the next morning. Let me remove the UV lamps. Okay. It hasn't removed some of the scarring on it, but it has definitely made it so much better. Let me put these in my bucket. So that has done a much better job, but unfortunately the damage that was done to it before, the marbling, is not going to come out. That is on there. That was completely damaged, but it does seem to have evened it out a bit. What I'm going to do is put all these parts and anything I used that touched inside the hydrogen peroxide to be washed and rinsed out completely. Okay, so I'm now going to pour the solution back into the containers. Now it's time to reassemble the brush vacuum. There we go, that is all back together now and done. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to get all of the marbled marks off the plastic, but it does now have an even colour. I didn't think I would be able to remove that marbling, to be honest, but there was still lots of brown patches on there that had gone that hadn't gone right with the cream peroxide using it. But I am pleased with it. It does look much better than what it did. It has reduced some of the marbling to some extent, and it has removed all the rest of the fading that the cream peroxide hadn't removed. So there we go. That is the first kind of like proper retrobriting that I've done using that method. So I will be doing a heck of a lot more because I have got machines everywhere. I'll see you again soon, hopefully, and thank you very much for this opportunity, Vince, and I'll pass you back to him. Bye, y'all.
Thank you so much, Dorian. I think it came out looking better than it did originally, and maybe if that method was used first time round, it would have come out perfect. So now to finish up the video, you're left with me, and I'm going to be working on a little hard drive caddy that I unfortunately damaged. So what are we going to be doing in this episode? Well, we're going to be trying to fix up this little hard drive caddy here. You know, the one that will change a hard drive into a USB connection. This particular one is USB 3. And you can see the blue colour there. So the idea is that you would connect this into here, so this SATA connection into here, and then this should be soldered onto the board here, and then you would connect in your USB 3 cable into here and this into your computer. But unfortunately, when I did it, the cable went in, wobbled a little bit, and then started to pull this off. When I looked closely, I gave it a little yank, and then it just came straight off because it wasn't working properly on the PC. Some of the pins were not making. Now, I'm hoping the pads are going to be okay. So you can see that we've got 1, 2, 3 ground pads there, and then it looks like we've got about 5 pins on that side and 5 pins on that side, and you see it's labelled up USB 3. So let's get the soldering iron, some flux, let's clean up the board here, try to clean up this part here. In fact, I can see part of the pad lifted there, but that should be okay because that's just on the ground. And then let's see if we can reattach this on here using the soldering iron. So I'm going to get the blue mat and zoom right in. Right, so let's just try to clean up these pads to begin with. Yeah, so the pad's definitely missing there, but I'll be able to get to that bit there. And again, I'll be able to get to the edge there because they're just massive ground pads. Right, I think I'm not going to take the solder off that. Let's have a look here. Do I even need to? I think I just need to reattach it all. Yeah, that will be fine. Let's just get rid of that. We don't need that anymore, do we? Right, it doesn't look like there's any solder in the middle bit there, so maybe that's why it was so easy to break, because it wasn't really anchored in the middle. Let's see if we can get a fixing on the edge here. Let's line it up. I'm just going to rest that underneath it to make it more straight. Here we go. Right, let's get some solder. Right, I can put a bigger lump on there in a minute. Let's try to do this side. Right, now let's try to solder up the underneath of it. I think that's that side done there. It's very close to that one, but that one's a ground anyway, so I think it's meant to be close to it. Right, now let's try to solder up each of these. So let's get some flux here. Just using this little liquid flux at the moment. going to zoom right in for this bit. Right, here goes. I'm just going to see if it will solder with what I've already got here at the moment. Let's do the one over here, and then I can clean it all up and have a close look. So let's clean it up and see what it looks like. Well, actually I want to add more solder to this lump here, don't I? Right, I'm happy with them. Right, let's give them each of a wiggle, make sure that they've joined. That definitely has. That has. Worried about this one here because I can barely see it. Yep, but that's joined. That one has, that one has. Both of them are together. That has, that one has, and that one has. So they're definitely sitting on top, but yet there's still enough solder underneath them. And if we compare them to here, which is like the professional job, you can see that they're all sat on top anyway. Yeah, that's on the same pad as that, so it doesn't matter, that's near there. Right, okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm especially happy with how these bits here at the ends have turned out. So I think that's a nice, that's going to be a nice strong connection. So I'm going to pop it back together, plug it into the computer and see if it makes that noise where it recognises the USB. Be easier just to use this little laptop for the filming. So let's plug it in here and we should hear the USB noise, and also we should see a little light come on just here. There's the noise, and there's the light, and yeah, I can feel it turning. So there we have it, and that caddy is still working fine today. So in my opinion, definitely worth fixing rather than throwing that one away and buying a new one. So that is the end of episode 7. A massive thanks to Chase, Guido and Dorian for making this video possible. If you like their segments, then their channels will be listed down in the description below, so head on over there and subscribe. So I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you got this far in the video, think about giving it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all very soon. Thanks for watching.